Hi everyone, welcome once again to the 24-bit podcast. Today we are shooting episode number 78 of the podcast, and of course it's the first one of the new year. If you've been a keen follow of our blogs and what we post online, we did share an update at the start of the year that was a roundup of 2024. Now it's 2025, and 2025 has brought with us lots of things like a new ICT minister and a carryover of some of the baggage from 2024, like we're living in Kenya with the reality of probably going into full censorship mode or something like that. That's what we're here to discuss. And as usual, I'm joined by the usual suspects.
Dixon at techish.com.
And Nick Anali from Tech Trends.
Good. We have a new ICT minister, gentlemen. And I don't know if it's correct to call him an ICT minister because I noted they dropped the T. It's now information, communication, and digital economy.
Digital economy,
yeah. I don't know if the technology matters or it's taken care of by the information and communication. We are not the appointing authority, so we don't know. But
it's not a minister, it's a cabinet secretary.
Yeah. It's one and the same thing. But first things first, one of the most prominent things that new CS has said after being appointment was the clampdown on social media. As we've discussed the June-July 2024 protests on this podcast at length, and they were largely fueled or organized, and mobilization happened on social media. On X, those spaces, on TikTok, there was all manner of things going on. And since then, the kind of protests happening have moved from being physical protests on the streets of Nairobi and other parts of the country to what you'd call online protests. So we've seen so many things. The headlining bit of it has been the abductions that have happened over the last few months, most notably in the week leading up to Christmas and also on Christmas Eve, when we had the rounding up of Kibet Bull, who's popular online for his very satirical cartoons, silhouettes, depicting Kasongo, if you know who that is. So that was the head coming to a head of this online protest where people are expressing themselves and the displeasure with what's going on in various forms and sharing online, primarily on social media. And now there's backlash, at least from the people who are being addressed. That's the individuals in the government and the government itself, and they've come out to say, you're misusing this space, it's indiscipline and all of those things. We regulate this place, the space will clamp down. They're requiring now, at least they said they will require that the organizations that run these platforms to have a local presence, all of those things. These things have happened. We are barely 2 weeks into the new year, or we're going to the third, right?
Yeah, the third
week, yeah. And all of this has happened. So we're here, gentlemen, to hear what your thoughts are. First things first, do we need government regulation on social media?
I think there's already government regulation on social media. For example, if I'm sponsoring content on Facebook or on Instagram, on TikTok, there's a percentage tax that the government collects. So if I'm making money selling or buying stuff from social media, government is already getting a cut on that. That's the maximum amount of regulation that should happen there. The only other regulation that should happen on social media is that social media companies have policies against certain content. For example, Facebook has regulations around political messages, pornography and all that. So that should be handled by the social media giant itself, not the government. On my social media platform, I should be free to do whatever I want, whatever I do in my house, whatever I do anywhere else, as long as I comply with the social media regulators, the company's policies. Government should only come there to collect tax, tell us that they're building roads which they don't build, and disappear.
Now, at what point does your freedom extend and overlap into mine? Like, at what point do you step on me, and where do I need protection
from that? I think most social media platforms, except Twitter, allow you to block, report, and mute and not see whatever harassment, judgment, whatever that could affect you in any way. So government has no place in that. Unless somebody violently attacks you physically or anywhere else, or I don't know how you can take that to court, but social media doesn't get to harm you in a way where it can, in terms of mental health and all that, but government should not play a role in any of that.
I think just what Dixon said. I mean, these social media companies already have their own policy and regulation, right? So, in fact, when you post, for example, an offensive tweet, an offensive, post on TikTok, they always pull down.
Yes.
I think that's where the regulations now come in. So maybe the much the government can do is now just try to help these social media companies implement the regulation that they already have. But I mean, it doesn't have. They shouldn't care about what I post or what I say on social media. That should be none of their concern, actually.
One of the CS's first actions was reshare a news card from Citizen TV, where
On TikTok ban.
on the TikTok
Yes,
ban in the US, and it was like, you see, it's happening elsewhere.
That's bad.
Can it happen? Like, what lessons do we draw from other jurisdictions, other countries with regards to regulating social media? And does that work here? How does that apply here?
I think it's stupid countries, and I don't know what to say, that ban social media.
Yeah.
Somebody will ask, China's banned certain social media platforms. No, China hasn't banned certain social media platforms. The social media platforms were required to meet certain standards that the Chinese government set, and they decided not to do so. That's why social media platforms in China still exist. So if you want to meet certain restrictions, but we are not a communist society where the Chinese Communist Party wants to know whatever data from its citizens. We are a democracy, so whatever I do on my social media platform, according to my freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of association, should not be controlled in any way by by government when I'm doing it physically or on socials. Yes.
When you see, for example, a government official or government minister doing that, you know what message are they sending? That, we can actually even do it as well. If we're seeing the US doing it, we can actually do it.
And I'm so glad it backfired on his face. Like, it's not even 2 hours, 20 hours later. And
TikTok is back up in the US. There's also this bit where you are demanding a lot of accountability online, but offline, the same
Totally
things are being
different,
perpetrated by the same actors. Actually, the political class. And nothing happens. Somebody said if he was in a position of authority, they'll kill all the Gen Z protesters. 5,000 of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing has been done in that regard.
Yeah, and they are left, right, and center making insightful comments and all of those. And insightful with a C, not the one that I've seen today, some people writing on social media. And then so there's the disconnect. How do you get that offline, which is not in sync with the online? You're demanding higher moral standards online. Because we had Ezekiel Mutua in this position, being a moral cop, and that failed on his face. Anyway, the other thing that the government has been keen on, because we also saw the government meeting representatives from social media companies and also the telcos and giving them all these directives, that bit of having social media organizations domiciled in Kenya as part of regulation, is that working?
Like I was saying before we started shooting, last year, the High Court or the Court of Appeal, I don't know, on the case between Facebook, what were they called?
Summer.
Yeah, the Facebook, the thing that Mark Zuckerberg is saying they're removing, fact-checkers.
Fact-checking.
So between Summer and... They were fact checkers or whatever.
Content
moderators and Facebook was that the court ruled that Meta can be sued locally. So now we are having a situation where we have what are they called? The thing we have, like we have the worst people possible in leadership are the leaders in Kenya. Kakistocracy. So we have the worst possible people as our leaders, and the worst people possible use social media to tell us to vote for them. They use social media to abuse each other when they're campaigning. And then now, when citizens are demanding accountability through social media and protesting through social media because citizens don't want to be shot in the streets, you can't shoot me through Facebook. Now, they're like, we do not allow you to say that through Facebook. So what we will do is we will ask Facebook to have local presence here so that when somebody posts something on Facebook, we can go to Facebook and ask them, this person is in Kenya and you have local presence. Give us his IP address so we can go arrest him. I think that's the target.
Plus, also, before we even come to you, Nick, to ask the same, these platforms have provided avenues. We've seen, before the buyout by Elon Musk, Twitter will release an annual report showing these were the number of takedown requests from governments around the world. So Qatar requested this number, UAE this number, and you'd see, I think at some point Kenya started popping in there. I don't know how effective that has been or ineffective for it now to come to this point where they actually threatening these companies. Nick, the question I'll ask you is slightly different. Do we matter? Like, if you are asking Elon Musk to set up a shop locally so that you can regulate whatever we post on his platform, is he bound by anything? Like, do we really matter that much that he'll care?
I don't think we do. I'll give you an example. For example, when Elon took over Twitter just a few years ago, what happened? We saw him actually fire the entire African office, and of course other offices as well. And I mean, what will stop Elon from saying, "Oh, you want me to stay there? I can't do that. Watch niende."
We have precedent in India.
Where exactly.
TikTok was banned,
and
the TikTok team just didn't give a hoot. They just stopped focusing there, and now Indonesia is their biggest market, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think a good
And what's
example.
happened in Brazil?
I think a good example is thinking of it this way. America is a big country in terms of population compared to Kenya. America has 313 million Americans. We have 59 million Kenyans. So America generates a very huge revenue for very many people on TikTok, businesses on TikTok and all that. They were forced to sell divestiture from, I think, 9 months ago. And if they did not sell, they were required to be banned. TikTok has had 9 months to sell so that they continue their business operations in America. And they have stood their ground willingly, even risking an outright ban. So how can you compare that to a population of 59 million Kenyans whose revenue TikTok doesn't care about? That's why we don't have TikTok Shop. We don't have a lot of features that make money on TikTok. How do you then require them to take it seriously that a small government who loves kickbacks, and everyone knows in tech circles that they do, will want you to set up a local office? They would rather you ban them and people use VPNs and continue. They will not ban any accounts. They will not bother with regulation in your country. It will be cheaper for them not to operate in your country than it is for them to set up a shop.
Because even with TikTok,
set up an office,
So in the US, of course, they pay creators. So that's means they spend a lot of money here. But in a country like Kenya, do we even have that monetization?
They even in instances where you can monetize content in Kenya, like both of you are publishers, creators, you do make money online. You note that
are very low.
The rates you make as a creator in Kenya, for example, on YouTube, are way lower compared to someone who's in the US. And the reason has to do not because Google or YouTube don't like you, but the purchasing power is the advertisers in the US spend a lot more money, and that money is what trickles down to the creators. Platforms, the channels where those ads are run, to the creators themselves. So there's more money here. The creators get to make significantly higher amounts compared to our market, where when people are bidding for ads on Google's platforms, the amounts are not as much.
True.
That's just one platform. If you go to Meta, it's probably around the same thing. But then you flip it this way. If you end up, say, disagreeing with TikTok because, say, they want to set up a local office, what happens to all these young people who are making money on TikTok? Because that's a thing right now. I don't know about Kenya, but there have been surveys in the US, for instance, and where young guys just want to be YouTubers, something like that. If you go to the city center over the weekend, the people with cameras all over
shooting content.
Yes, exactly. We are at a point in Kenya we have celebrities, people who are purely celebs in the Kenyan context because of social media following. In fact, you remove them online, they're not. They're only known by people online, and they're famous on the online streets. We have artists who've popped because of some TikTok and all of that. We've seen well, it's not the best example, but Kasongo has come, the song, not
Yeah.
the person, has become a hit and a sensation
Because of social
TikTok.
media.
Social media again. We saw Dead Musicians songs coming back from the 70s,
Yes.
80s. That has been happening. So there's a whole, not just a creator economy, I don't know what you'd call it, but there's a whole economy that is supported by these
By social media.
Facebook groups in Kenya, buy and sell,
Yeah.
the big.
Facebook marketplace is big.
Yeah, so I don't know how all of that, whoever is making these policies, is thinking through the effects. Because much as there is the negative bit, and the negative bit here is it's subjective. It's very subjective. It's negative depending on where you are. As an active citizen who's on this other side, I'll say it's not negative. But if I was in government, probably I'll say it's negative.
Yes.
So I don't know, those people who are making these policies or going to drive this policy, what their thinking is. And the potential impact, because say you shut down social media, so what happens to this podcast? To distribute door by door, door to door.
I think
CDs,
one of the things government haijafikiria ama doesn't want to think through is this: Kenyans are chronically online. You shut down a platform, or you say you've shut down a platform. We're not in 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, or early 2000s where you will be like, oh, what do we do? Our social media is shut down. Kenyans have options. Kenyans know how to build networks. Kenyans will find a way to communicate. And it's very good when communication is especially decent against a government is public and actionable, where you can see what's happening. If this goes into platforms where the Kenyan government or the Kenyan intelligence can't look at, it could be worse. For example, if every viral topic was on Reddit, where the usernames are not real, the locations are not real, and all that, what will government do? Will you tell Reddit to shut down? Then people move to Signal, or people move to, even worse, WhatsApp, where you can't literally know what's going on between two groups of people or communities and all that.
Or Telegram.
Yeah, so there's no way of shutting down this dissident where I think they sit down in while having tea or whatever they drink and say, wale tutusi Twitter, let us delete Twitter from there. But that doesn't calm the dissident. That doesn't make people happy about their government. That doesn't make people okay. It will just move to another platform. So right now, I think their biggest shame is that they're shamed everywhere on online. Whenever there's a visiting dignitary, whenever there's a speech they post on Twitter and all that, they have been beneficiaries of these social media platforms so that they appear to be working, but now it's working against them.
Because, previously, I think, previously the government was relying so much on media, on the traditional media. And, of course, if you read about history, you'll read about how the previous regime were controlling what the media says. These days, social media, no gatekeeping, no one. So it comes raw as it is. And, you can't lie. And even some of these politicians you've seen pushing for this agenda of, this company setting shop here or regulating social media. Some of them, we've known them from social media because they don't speak in parliament, they don't speak anywhere. So we've just seen videos of them trending somewhere. And there's a certain position.
The idea that
you're being nice. Sudi, for instance, is just known.
I was going to mention names.
Sudi, for instance, is just known for Instagram stories and TikToks. That's it. If you were to go to the Hansard, which is the official record of what goes on in the Houses of Parliament, there's no record of him presenting his Kapseret constituents on the floor of the House at all. So they also have the same platform. So you start wondering what you've seen these WhatsApp groups where either they're supposed to be broadcast only or they're run by dictator admins where you can't post but admins can send messages to you. So are we envisioning a future where the likes of Sudi and everyone else can post? We can't engage because you can't dictate how citizens engage. The engagement could be compliments. Could also be insults. You don't really have to like what people are saying, but it's also their space to say it. And it's a tough balance. And then the thing that we never discuss on this podcast, because it's outside the scope of this podcast, but it's essential now that we're discussing these things, is democracy. So in a democracy, that's allowed. So if you're going to take away social media, bringing lots of aspects that we don't delve into of governance, that means then what are we becoming?
We are slowly becoming dictatorship.
Yeah, and that's a very, very bad route to take, actually.
Now, before we go, I want to bring in something because the government released a statement where they were informing. You saw the statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where they were telling foreign governments that these guys are using deep fakes and all of that. Lots of big buzzwords in tech. So, do we have a problem with AI and deep fakes in this whole fighting social media thing or whatever it is?
One of the funniest things about democracy, peace, and making headway in any form of government ever, or just getting your way with stuff is that, for example, independence, it wasn't gotten from people sitting down and saying, give us our independence. It was never. People had to fight for it. If you think of secessions or whatever that have happened and people became self-ruling and all that, it wasn't achieved by people saying, allow multi-party, allow what? It was always fought for in some way or the other. Kenyans got out in June last year, throughout the year, saying we don't want this government because it has lost its mandate. It's no longer serving the people. It's self-serving. This was during the times MPs used to flaunt their cash, their cars, and all that on social media. The same social media they now want to regulate. So if you can manage to kill people and abduct people from the streets and all that, and people move their protests to some form of protesting online where it's calling you out, ridiculing you and all that, and you don't have the what is it called, to stand the ridicule and all that. The idea that you should shut down those platforms, the same platforms you use to communicate to your people, is weird. But the idea that deepfakes and AI are now messing up or the issues that we want to discuss, when at the beginning of 2024 we were discussing how we are seeing billboards made with AI. Government didn't say anything about that. We saw adverts on TV, fully AI. Government didn't say anything about that. So where is the line that was crossed where now if the AI is being used for protest, it's wrong, but when it was being used for advertisement,
putting them in coffins.
Yes, when it was being used for advertisement, it was okay. This is just a form of, what I am saying is a form of fight. People don't get what they want through saying, please allow us. Yeah, it has to be a fight. Yes.
Yeah, the line was crossed when we put them in coffins, and
I don't
they
see- I don't see a big
don't
deal,
like, at least from their perspective, there is really no line. The actual people who are killed, the actual people who are put in coffins. This is all virtual. So if you really don't like, maybe you can do some soul searching. Basically, nothing technical, nothing to do with the tech.
But if you've grown up during protests, 92, 97, people had effigies that were being burnt. So that protest that is now quite hard to do, going to the road, getting people protesting, which every time you try to do, police are everywhere, is what people are moving to social media. That war that was on the ground where we want our rights, that was you carry placards and all that, is what people are carrying on social media. If we were banning effigies as a President Kitambo, now you're literally banning them on social media using AI images of someone in a coffin. People used to make effigies, coffins of Moi, and burn them on the street. In
fact, I was reading a comment. Someone said, if you want us to stop putting you in coffins using these AI images, then you stop putting people in real coffins.
So the question now becomes, all of this that's going on, what do you think will be the implication? We're just in January. There's a whole 11 months to go. What will we primarily cover? Tech and topics revolving around tech in Kenya. What's going to be the impact to tech, the industry, and all of that? Do you see, like, for instance, for the longest time we've been saying we are the Silicon Savannah and making noise about how Kenya is progressive and all of those things. What are some of the things that we stand to gain or we stand to lose when this discourse is happening, these kinds of moves? Because we are speaking at a time when much of the regulation is still proposals, but we know people, when our politicians mean business, they can stay up in parliament all night and pass all of this. We could actually sit down here next week when you're at a point where you can't record. So how do you think the year will unfold?
First of all, I think we were a Silicon Savannah. We are no longer a Silicon Savannah.
Also a Singapore.
I don't think there is any way we can.
New Singapore.
I don't think we can call ourselves New Singapore, Silicon Savannah, or all that, because there's progress when you're a silicon savannah. Silicon is from processors. We know we've moved from 52 nanometer, 28 nanometer, 12 nanometer. We are at 3 nanometers with the new iPhones. But if we are a silicon savannah, where is the growth in Kenya? How are we? What's our trajectory of growth? What have we built new?
There's that in it, right?
ICT
Digital
hubs
hub in Ruiru.
Yeah. Like, there's nothing we built, so we are no longer worthy of the name Silicon Savannah. Secondly, the idea that we could even be a hub for innovation is dead when we are now being retrogressive. We are not progressing because we had the best social media platforms here, like free everything. We have the best freedom of expression and all that. If we are moving back into that, we have left our digital space to be a free run for everyone wanting to come in. Now we want to control or Starlink, we can make money from this, or Facebook, we can make money from this. It's no longer come and exercise your freedom of ideas and innovation. It's more of come and let's find a way of making money from you guys. We're not pushing any innovation from our country. We're only pushing innovation away from our country. So what we will see in the next few months is more startups want to be coming into the market if they have a chance to do so. It's not it's a volatile market. More companies will be like, we are paying so much taxes, let's go somewhere else. There'll be less innovation and stupider people in government. I don't get why we have an ICT CS who thinks of, let us ban pornography, by the way. Like, there's so much to think about in the ICT space. Let us regulate Starlink. Let us do what, it's not let us build this. It's more of let us kick people out.
Right.
So we are not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think if just a statement by the CS, Kabogo, is anything to go by, it was just released a few minutes ago before we went live on this podcast. So he's saying, let us be responsible when using social media. We don't want to think about switching off people because the capacity is there. That's worrying. Instead of putting me in a coffin and displaying me out there, why don't you just tell me what you want? I mean, this is what people have been telling them.
Exactly. What they want, and they've not been listening.
So I don't see them actually switching off the internet. I'm just seeing a point where restrictions will happen.
No, there's the internet and there's social media.
Social media.
Practically speaking, as a Kenya, we can't function without the internet. We have our entire financial system built over there and all of those things. So practically speaking, even government services, they're all online. So practically speaking, an internet shutdown is a high stretch. Not that we've not seen it happen. We discussed the June 25th shutdown here. So it's happened, but it can never happen to the scale that we saw in Chad.
Oh yeah, that was messed up.
It was what, Burundi? It's one of these other African,
Senegal as well. We've seen that happen.
Those kind, even Ethiopia at some point, kinds of internet shutdowns that we've seen in other parts of Africa that have been prolonged for days. I don't think we can see that kind here. But as they have experimented for 2 years in a row now, we can shut down specific apps.
So
we've had Telegram going down. We've seen them try their thing with X. That can happen. So the shutdown does not need to be necessarily the internet, but the shutdown can be social media. So you can still go any citizen and apply for a certificate of good conduct that will take 2 years to get to you. But you can't post on X.
I don't think it makes sense to, like I said before, to just shut down X or WhatsApp or Telegram because people will move somewhere else. For example, right now we are on a form of social media that people don't think is social media. You're on Google Docs. You're typing, I am typing, we can see what we are saying. So whatever government wants to do will be just fantastical stories. People will find ways to communicate. People will find ways to email other governments and tell them don't come to Kenya. People will find ways to raise dissident or whatever the word is. So whatever government does, it will only curtail whatever partnerships they have with other countries, whatever view of Kenya we have, our travel restrictions, our what do they call when the things that US government puts on sanctions. It will only increase our, like, it will be the whatever level of bad we think this government is, it will be thought as worse whenever these restrictions come into place.
You know, you said about dogs being social media, and on a light note, there's a story about people who are cheating, so they use dogs to chat with other people. Because you can never be found on dogs. Don't quote me anyway. And there's a good example. In the US, ahead of the TikTok ban, the Americans gravitated towards red.
Yes,
Yeah.
they downloaded Red
Yes,
Note, gave
yeah.
their data there.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a conversation we can have from January to December. And while we've had it now, it's just January, and it might be premature because we're yet to know what's going to happen over the next few weeks, the next few months. As we are learning, 1 week in Kenya is a very long time. So we can keep
a lot of things happen in 1 week.
exactly. We can keep this conversation going on social media. When this episode drops, wherever you're accessing it from, you can share your feedback. Also, you can tell us what you think about the proposed regulation of social media and all the sentiments that have been going on. Thank you for listening. I've been your host, Chenzo Emmanuel.
Dixon Otieno.
And Nick Canali.
See you in the next episode.